No, seriously, she lost her mind. Cursed, screamed, eliminated my fence, and tried to file a neighborhood complaint all because my teenage son changed the Wi-Fi password. It started when we moved into this beautiful suburban neighborhood last spring. Quiet streets, blooming flowers, friendly waves. You know, the Pinterest version of suburbia. My son Josh, 15, was thrilled to finally have a big room and decent internet for his gaming. We even splurged and installed a super strong fiber optic Wi-Fi router, which we were absolutely not sharing with anyone else. No offense, but I wasn't about to invite my entire block into my personal internet space, especially when my 15-year-old was trying to play Fortnite at warp speed. Enter Karen. Blonde bob, always smiling, but with that I'm watching you look in her eyes. Sunglasses permanently perched on top of her head like she was about to attend a press conference. Clipboard tucked under her arm like it was an Olympic sport. She was the self-declared OA communications officer, which, as I later discovered, meant professional neighborhood nosy Parker. She showed up the first week we moved in, wearing a bright floral print dress, a warm smile plastered across her face, and an energy that screamed, "I run this neighborhood." "Hi, welcome. Oh, by the way, your Wi-Fi signal is really strong. Mind sharing the password? It'll help boost connectivity for the community." "What?" We politely declined, thinking this was just one of those overly friendly but slightly odd neighborly requests. I mean, who goes around asking for Wi-Fi passwords within the first week of meeting someone? But Karen wasn't done. Oh no, she was just getting started. Over the next few weeks, we started noticing some strange things happening. Josh's gaming sessions became glitchy, lagging in the middle of his matches, which, if you've ever seen a teenager rage over bad Wi-Fi, was a disaster. The more we checked, the stranger it got. We found unusual devices connected to our network, devices that didn't belong to us. At first, we blamed it on random guests, maybe a few people from the neighborhood borrowing our Wi-Fi here and there. We even shared a few cookies with the neighbors during a small get-together, so we thought maybe that was the reason. But things started to escalate. One night, Josh noticed his Xbox was acting weird. He couldn't sign in. His friends couldn't connect. So we decided to investigate. And that's when we discovered something wild. Karen had somehow hacked into our Wi-Fi, or maybe gotten the password from one of the overly polite neighbors we'd shared cookies with. It felt like a secret conspiracy. Was the HOA teaming up to use my Wi-Fi for their own digital surveillance? Who knows? That's when Josh, being the sarcastic genius he is, decided to take matters into his own hands. He changed the Wi-Fi password to something unguessable, thinking that would solve the problem. He stared at the router for a moment and then typed out what was, in his mind, the perfect password. No Karen Zone 2024. A little snarky, but effective, right? I mean, who could possibly guess that? He even posted a screenshot of the new password to a private group chat with his friends and said, "Anyone know how to get Karen off my Wi-Fi? Hashtag no Karen's own," and that's when all hell broke loose. The very next day, Karen showed up at our door again. This time, it wasn't a friendly, "Oh, I just wanted to say hi" type of visit. No, she was outraged. Standing on our front step, hands on her hips, staring at us with the intensity of a person who thought she had just been robbed of a national treasure. "Why can't I connect to the internet?" she demanded. "Your Wi-Fi is now impossible to access. I'm doing important community work. I need the Wi-Fi password," she nearly screamed. Josh, being the perfect level of teenage sass, smiled and said, "Oh, well, the password is no Karen's own 2024 now." I thought I saw her eye twitch. She tried to laugh it off, but it was clear she wasn't finding it funny. It was then that I realized we had unleashed a beast. The next few days were filled with bizarre, passive-aggressive confrontations. Karen started showing up uninvited on our front lawn, just staring at our router and muttering to herself about how we were violating community tech standards. She even posted a message on the HOA community forum, accusing us of broadband theft and depriving neighbors of their digital rights. Josh's phone pinged with an email from her that said, "Your actions are unethical and are now being reported to the HOA board. Prepare for consequences." Consequences? What was she going to do, have me fined for refusing her Wi-Fi? It was clear that Karen was not going to let this go, and that's when I realized we needed to make a stand. The very next morning, Karen showed up banging on our front door like a woman on a mission. But this wasn't your typical hello, neighbor visit. No, she had her iPad clutched in both hands like it had personally betrayed her. Why can't I access the network? She demanded, as if my Wi-Fi had somehow become a personal offense. I need it for neighborhood surveillance uploads. Yeah, you read that right. Neighborhood surveillance uploads. She wasn't just using our Wi-Fi for email and Netflix. No, she had started live streaming our entire block like it was a reality show. The woman was out of control. We told her that the password had been changed due to unusual activity and, the fact that we weren't running a free public service for her. We also informed her that she was no longer authorized to use it. Karen's face turned redder than a tomato in July. I'm talking full-on beetroot mode. She muttered something about community access rights, like she was going to invoke some kind of non-existent Wi-Fi Bill of Rights. And then, without another word, she spun around dramatically and stormed off, but not before kicking one of our flower pots like a sore loser in flip-flops. The pot exploded in a mess of dirt and flowers, and for a second, I thought maybe she was going to kick our front door down, too. But no, she just left, taking her sense of entitlement with her. At this point, I had enough. We were ready for whatever was coming next. But what happened that afternoon truly set the tone for what will become the lemonade war of 2024. I went to check the mailbox only to find a pitcher of lemonade dumped across our driveway. The sticky yellow liquid was pooling around our tires. Next to the mess was a note, taped to our mailbox, written in a spidery scrawl that could only be described as Karen handwriting. You get what you give. And there it was. Karen had turned a simple Wi-Fi dispute into an all-out lemonade war. I couldn't believe it. The woman literally thought she could send lemonade as some kind of passive-aggressive message. Josh thought it was hilarious and posted the entire story on Reddit, captioned, "My neighbor's Wi-Fi obsession just went viral. Karen's lemonade revenge." And of course, the internet went wild. 1 million upvotes. Thousands of comments. People from all over the world started chiming in with suggestions. Some said we should respond with lemonade stand memes, while others suggested sending her lemonade mimosas. Josh spent hours scrolling through Reddit, loving every minute of it. And the more people laughed, the more Karen seed. The next day, Karen showed up in person again, but this time she wasn't alone. Oh no. She brought her backup, her Chihuahua, Sparkle, who was wearing a rhinestone sweater that said security. Yes, you read that right. Security. Sparkle, the asterisk toughest dog in the neighborhood, was the most comical part of the entire spectacle. She was tiny, covered in bling, and couldn't have been more than 6 pounds of diva energy. But Karen was serious. She marched up to the front door, her hands on her hips, her face twisting in frustration. And then, like a true warrior of passive aggression, she demanded we apologize and reset the password. She demanded. This wasn't a suggestion, it was a decree. Apologize, she said, and reset the Wi-Fi password. I'll escalate this further. Josh, who had been playing a game on his phone, didn't even look up. He just calmly looked at her, cracked a smile, and said, "Sure, the new password is Lemonade Loser." And then he walked back inside, slowly and with the kind of cool, collected swagger you only see in movie heroes. You know, the kind where the doors slam shut in the background as they leave their enemies standing there in defeat. I stood there, in stunned silence for a moment. I was proud, yes, but also slightly terrified because now Karen was a force to be reckoned with. She was not going to let this go. But what could she do? We had out-lemonaded her, and it felt like the perfect mic drop. The internet ate it up. Reddit exploded again with people praising Josh for his masterful burn. The story spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. But it wasn't just online anymore. Karen knew we were not backing down, and that's when things were about to get a whole lot more ridiculous. Now, I don't like drama. Really, I don't. I prefer my life peaceful, my Wi-Fi private, and my neighbors minding their own business. But if Karen wanted to play HOA games, then I was about to take things to a whole new level. We decided it was time for some serious upgrades, and not just to our Wi-Fi. We were going full Operation Lockdown, no more Karen. First, we installed private mesh Wi-Fi routers. These weren't your average consumer-grade models. These babies came with MAC address filtering. No more freeloaders on our network. No more people hacking in and using our bandwidth for neighborhood surveillance. If you weren't on the approved list, you weren't getting in. Meanwhile, I wasn't about to sit around while Karen continued her vendetta. I installed smart locks on our driveway gate. No one was getting through, especially not without us knowing. I also set up a ring cam with a bullhorn feature because, hey, if Karen was going to harass us, we were going to have a little fun with it. And then there was a cherry on top. I connected everything to Josh's phone. Why Josh? Because Karen had started sending him direct emails. I'm talking about emails that range from passive-aggressive to borderline stalker level weird. One email said, "Your attitude is unacceptable. You're setting a poor example for other teens in the neighborhood." Josh, of course, was not going to let this slide. His response? A SpongeBob gif of him putting up a Do Not Disturb sign. I couldn't help but laugh. But Karen wasn't about to give up. She was relentless, and it was starting to get out of hand. It all came to a head one evening. We were sitting on the couch, eating dinner, when we heard a loud shout from outside. We looked out the window, and there she was, Karen, standing on the sidewalk, waving her arms and yelling at the top of her lungs. "This community does not support cyber terrorists," she shouted. What? Cyber terrorists? Seriously? At that point, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone and called the HOA chair. They were surprised to hear from me and quickly informed me that Karen wasn't even elected. She had appointed herself as the HOA communications officer. Apparently, Karen had taken it upon herself to start enforcing the HOA rules, even though there was no official election process. I couldn't believe it. The HOA had no real authority, and yet she was going around acting like she had a badge. That night, we made sure everything was set. The driveway gate was locked with our new smart locks, and the ring cam was ready to capture any action. I set the bullhorn audio to trigger if there was any movement near the gate. We waited. Just after midnight, we got the notification. The ring cam detected movement. Josh and I held our breath. Then, through the live feed, we saw her, Karen, creeping up to our driveway, a pair of bolt cutters in her hands. She was determined. We watched as she tried to cut the chain on the gate, but as soon as she made contact with it, the bullhorn audio blasted through the yard. "Attention! You are being monitored by neighborhood security and the internet." Karen shrieked, the kind of shriek that only happens when a person realizes they've made a huge mistake. She stumbled backward, tripping over her own flip-flop in the process. I couldn't believe it. She fell, right there in front of the camera, while her dog Sparkle barked like the world was coming to an end. I couldn't help myself. I had to show the world what had just happened. Josh quickly grabbed his phone, uploaded the footage, and captioned it, "When your HOA Karen can't live without your Wi-Fi." The video went viral. The next thing we knew, it had 3 million views. People were commenting like crazy, offering support, and making memes about Karen and her failed attempt to break into our property. Sparkle's bark became a running joke in the comment section. I'm not going to lie, I felt a little bad for Karen, but at the same time, she had brought this on herself. Karen became internet infamous. The once self-appointed whole queen was now the subject of thousands of memes, parodies, and videos. Her attempt to break into our property and terrorize our Wi-Fi became a symbol of every bad neighbor everywhere. Meanwhile, we were living it up. The HOA chair finally called us and apologized. They said they would look into the situation with Karen. But honestly, by then, we had one. The whole neighborhood saw the video, and everyone knew Karen for who she really was. She had lost the battle. And just like that, Operation Lockdown, No More Karen was officially a success. We had had enough. It was time for a public reckoning, and Karen was going to get her comeuppance in front of the entire neighborhood. The HOA was having its monthly meeting at the community clubhouse, and Karen had been buzzing about it for days, promising to speak about community issues, which, as we all knew, meant she was going to whine about us, our Wi-Fi, and possibly demand that we apologize for being disruptive. We weren't going to let that happen. Josh had an idea that was both brilliant and hilarious. We were going to expose her, but we were going to do it with style. And by style, I mean with snacks. We decided on lemon bars. Why? Because after all the lemonade drama, it seemed only fitting. But we weren't just going to bring regular lemon bars. No, each bar had a 2-pit flag that read, "Wi-Fi not included." It was the perfect touch. As we prepared our little snack army, we couldn't help but giggle. This was going to be epic. When the day of the HOA meeting came, we walked in with a tray of lemon bars. People were already sitting in their usual spots, ready for another round of Karen's complaints, and let's be real, probably Karen's self-congratulations for upholding the neighborhood's values. But when she stood up to speak, she had no idea what was about to hit her. The moment Karen opened her mouth and started ranting about cyberbullying and teenage disrespect again, we rolled in a portable projector. It was set up, ready to go like we were the host of an award show. And as soon as Karen started her tirade, we hit play. On the big screen in front of everyone was the ring cam footage of Karen, holding bolt cutters, attempting to break into our driveway gate, and, of course, tripping over her flip-flop. The whole room went dead silent for a moment. And then, like a chain reaction, the gasps started. Whispers filled the room. A few people even started laughing under their breath. And in the front row, one guy, who had clearly eaten one too many lemon bars, choked on a bite and had to be patted on the back by his neighbor. Karen's face went 10 shades of red. It was like watching a cartoon character morph into a tomato. She was fuming. Her cheeks puffed up, her hands were trembling, and she looked like she was about to explode. She tried to speak, but the words didn't come out right. The worst part, her dog Sparkle, her security, was sitting in her lap, barking nonstop like the world was ending. In the middle of her tantrum, Karen stormed out of the meeting. Her dramatic exit was so over the top, I half expected her to slam the door. But no, she just flung it open and disappeared into the parking lot, leaving a trail of angry mutterings behind her. We couldn't stop laughing. It felt like we had won the final battle. We'd exposed her in front of the whole neighborhood, and it was glorious. But the best part was yet to come. Turns out, several neighbors had also been annoyed with Karen for months. She had been a constant thorn in everyone's side, accusing people of trivial violations, stealing lawn chairs from their porches, leaving cryptic friendly notes about noise complaints, and even filing complaints about people's wind chimes. People started sharing their stories. One neighbor told the room about how Karen once yelled at her for having a loud conversation in her own backyard. Another woman spoke up about how Karen had complained that her gardening tools were too sharp and could pose a danger to the neighborhood. The more stories people shared, the clearer it became. Karen was no longer the beloved neighborhood enforcer. She had become the neighborhood nightmare. At that point, we knew it was time to strike. We created a private Facebook group for everyone who was done with Karen and her antics. It was called No Karen Zone, and within a week we had over 60 members. The posts were full of complaints, rants, and memes about Karen's ridiculous behavior. It became a safe haven for the frustrated neighbors who had put up with her for far too long. And just like that, Karen's power over the neighborhood started to crumble. The HOA board, after hearing about the incident, decided to properly revote all officers. And when it came time to vote for the new HOA communications officer, guess who wasn't even on the ballot? Karen. She had been disqualified. As for us, we won. The neighborhood was finally free of the Karen reign, and Josh and I celebrated by having our own little victory party. No lemonade, but definitely a lot of lemon bars. With Karen out of power, the whole neighborhood took a collective deep breath. It was like a weight had been lifted off all our shoulders. No more frantic emails from Karen. No more complaints about Wi-Fi, lawn ornaments, or mysterious wind chimes. For the first time in months, everyone felt like they could relax. We celebrated the end of her reign in true neighborhood fashion with a block party. Josh, of course, was in charge of the music. He had been DJing for weeks, compiling the perfect mix of old-school jams and modern hits, knowing that Karen's reign had made everyone's playlist a bit too boring. I was in charge of the food, naturally. I fired up the grill and cooked up burgers and hot dogs like it was a patriotic holiday. The grill was sizzling, the drinks were flowing, and the sun was setting, casting a warm glow over our little suburban paradise. And then there was Sparkle the Chihuahua. Oh yes, Sparkle made her appearance at the block party too, this time on a leash. She was much calmer than before, and surprisingly, she wasn't barking like the world was ending. Karen had moved 2 blocks over, and rumor had it, she was now fighting with her mailman over whether he had the right to deliver packages to her front door. We all chuckled, knowing that she was no longer our problem. We decided to commemorate the victory in the most appropriate way possible: T-shirts. Yes, we had Lemonade Losers Club, EST 2024, printed up in big, bold letters across the front. On the back, in fine print, it read, "Free Wi-Fi not available." It was a petty win, but it was a win. And we wore those shirts proudly as we sipped our cold drinks and laughed with neighbors who we'd barely spoken to before Karen became a part of our lives. It was the most relaxed, carefree block party I had ever been to. No drama, no crazy complaints, just good food, good music, and good vibes. Josh finally got back to his gaming. He'd been on edge for months, worried about Karen lurking around our router, trying to get in. But now, he was able to enjoy his gaming sessions without lag, without strange devices on the network, and without worrying if someone was watching him through our security cameras. His Wi-Fi was finally safe, just the way it should be. The internet also stayed safe. We kept our new, secure Wi-Fi locked down tight with those mesh routers and MAC address filtering. No more Karen, no more freeloaders, and no more weird neighborhood surveillance. We even threw in a few extra passwords for good measure. I'm not going to lie, it felt amazing to just breathe easy again. For once, the only drama in the neighborhood was when someone accidentally overcooked the burgers on the grill. No complaints about Wi-Fi. No one complained about how loud the music was. The biggest issue was a burnt burger, which is the kind of drama I could get used to. The best part? Karen never came back. She tried to send a few passive-aggressive texts to other neighbors, but everyone ignored her. Her self-appointed reign had come to a screeching halt, and there was no going back. The neighborhood had spoken, and they had chosen peace over petty grievances. Karen was a relic of the past. Moral of the story? Never mess with teens and their tech. If someone demands your Wi-Fi, give them lemon bars instead. And if your gate has a bullhorn, use it. In the end, Karen learned a valuable lesson. Don't mess with a family that knows how to protect their Wi-Fi and fight back with snacks and memes. Because nothing says neighborhood justice like a Wi-Fi war and a viral Karen meltdown. Clapperboard, like, comment, subscribe for more hilarious real-life tales. Because nothing says take that Karen like a Lemonade Losers Club shirt, a locked gate, and a whole lot of internet peace. Collision antenna. Bars lemon.